Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru-paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning, everybody. Okay, so we had finished 8 of the 9 mantras of the first section, and now we are on the 9th mantra. So we'll just chant that and then we'll go ahead. Yas Sarvagnya Sarvavid.
Yes,
Sarvagnya Sarvavid.
Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha.
Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha.
Tasmad Etad Brahma.
Tasmad Etad Brahma.
Nama Rupam Annam Cha Jayate.
Nama Rupam Annam Cha Jayate.
Okay, so I'm just muting you. So Yaha, that person, Sarvagnya is all-knowing, Sarvavita is also all-knowing. We'll see what is the difference. And Yasya, that person who's Jnanamayam, full of knowledge, Tapaha, austerity. From that, Tasmad Etad Brahma, from that Brahman, Nama Rupam, names and forms, Annam Cha, food is also produced. So in short, from that Brahman, who is all-knowing in 2 ways and who is full of knowledge and austerity, from that Brahman is born Brahma, the creator. So the 2 Brahmans are there, 2 Brahmas are there. One is Nirguna Brahman. The second is Saguna Brahman, Hiranyagarbha. And not only Hiranyagarbha is born, Annam, that is food, and Nama Rupam, names and forms, are also born. So the topic of creation, which was begun earlier, is being continued. And so he says, Yaha, that Ishvara, what is his nature and what is the Anumanam, what is the inference from? The inference is from the fact that Yaha, that Ishvara, brings out, creates the entire universe. The universe is infinite, and therefore Yaha Sarvajnaha. His knowledge must also be infinite. So his knowledge in Bhagavad Gita terms, his Paravidya and Aparavidya are infinite and complete. So in the 5th mantra, we had seen that Brahman was introduced as Aksharam, right? Though in Sanskrit grammar, Aksharam is neutral gender. And here that same Brahman is referred to as Yahaha. So Ya is Pullinga, masculine gender. And he's giving a distinction. From the point of view of creation, that same Brahman is called Ishvara. And what does Ishvara know? He knows everything. Sarvam. So this Sarvam is a very important word here. And it has a definition in 2 ways. There are 2 thoughts or 2 different ideas which you can have about the word Sarvam. And one is the person who knows everything in general, right? So in fact, if you want to look at an example, if you have to know all the ornaments in general, you only have to know that the gold is the content of all the ornaments. So that idea is called Sarvagya. So Sarvam Janati, it is Sarvagya. One who knows the general constitution of everything. And this Sarvagya knowledge comes from where? Through Paravidya. Right? Paravidya gives you this general knowledge. And through Paravidya, you can become Sarvagya. Okay. Now, what is the other what they call interpretation? So he says Sarvavit. There are two words, Sarvagnya and Sarvavit. So Sarvagnya means the general knowledge that of all things. So as far as the universe is concerned, what is the one knowledge which you can have about everything? We said in the beginning, knowing that which everyone, knowing that one, everything is known, knowing that Brahman. So knowing that Brahman is the content of the entire universe, that Brahman is the very upadana karanam of the universe, that is called Sarvagnya. And Sarvagnya, that knowledge comes through Paravidya, through Atma Vidya only. So Jnani is Sarvagnya. And then, and of course, he's talking about Ishvara. So Ishvara is also Sarvagnya. He knows that Brahman is the content of the entire universe. Then the word Sarvavit is used. So Sarvavit's definition is Sarvam Vetti iti Sarvavit. Not that Sarvam Janati iti Sarvagnya and Sarvam Vetti iti Sarvavit. The word Janati has exactly the same connotation as Vetti in grammar. So if you open a dictionary, Janati and Vetti just means knows. Both mean know. But here we say that Sarvavit is the term used by Shastram for knowing something specifically. Therefore, knowing through Apara Vidya is known as Sarvavit. And therefore, this word, since the word, two words are used, Sarvagnya and Sarvavit, which could mean the same thing, you have to understand them differently because you cannot accuse the scripture of having repetition. Repetition is a defect, so we call it Punar Ukti Dosha. We cannot accuse the scripture of having Punar Ukti Dosha, and therefore you have to understand it separately. And therefore Shankara says over here, Sarvagnya Samanyena Sarvam Janati iti Sarvagnya. So Ishvara knows everything in general, Samanyena. Right? And that is why I said, by knowing gold, you know the content of all the ornaments. So that kind of knowledge is called Sarvagnya. Because gold alone is the substance, is the upadana karanam. All the rest is only form and name. So that is Sarvagnya. And Shankara gives the other definition also. He says, Visheshena sarvam vetti iti sarvavetta. Visheshena here means specifically or in detail. And how does Ishvara know everything in detail? Through the individual minds. So you can take Sarvagnya as the knowledge before creation, which is what, that the entire creation will be made up of me only. This is Ishvara, right? So Ishvara's one aspect is Brahman and one is Maya. Maya constitutes the entire universe. Maya is the Upadana Karanam, the material cause of the entire universe. And before creation, Ishvara knows that the whole universe will be transformed out of Maya only. The Avyakta Maya will change into Vyakta Maya, and that is going to be the universe. So he already knows what is the general content of the universe, and that is Sarvagnya. So it's before creation. Sarvavit is after creation. So Sarvagnya is the understanding of Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. But Sarvavit is the understanding for the purpose of a particular creation. Like, and therefore, if you say that who is a Sarvavit for the purpose of a house, then that Sarvavit can be the architect, it can be the people who put the house together. The details of how the house is being put together is specific details of that house. And that sort of a person is Sarvavit. How to put a car together is specific details. So the car engineer is a Sarvavit for the purpose of the car. And therefore, from the point of view of individual creation, no one person can be a Sarvavit. Because no one person in the universe can know about everything. The details of how to create everything cannot be known. So I may be a Sarvavit for the purpose of, let us say, building a house or building a car or building a tape recorder. But I cannot be Sarvavit for everybody, for every little item in the universe, because knowledge is limited. And therefore it is said that Ishvara is Sarvagnya because he knows the content of the universe, and is Sarvavit also because he creates everything. While the Jnani can only be a Sarvagnya. He cannot be a Sarvavit, because to be a Sarvavit, For the creation, you have to know everything necessary to create the universe in detail. That detailed knowledge has to be there. That is not possible for a jnani because he is limited by his upadhi. So from the point of view of the upadhi, if you are saying, then only Ishvara can be Sarvavit. Because Ishvara operates through all the individual minds. And each individual mind will have maybe a Sarvavit for some purpose. And therefore, if you include all the individual minds in the universe, that is how we say that Ishvara is Sarvavit. He knows everything necessary for creating the entire universe. So I can be Sarvavit for the purpose of, let us say, a car. I can be Sarvavit for the purpose of creating a mobile phone. But I cannot be Sarvavit for everything. To be a Sarvavit for all of creation is possible only for Ishvara. And that is because of the Maya Upadhi, which is in the form of all the Nama Rupa. Okay, I hope this idea is clear. Any question on that? What is the difference between Sarvavit and Sarvagnya is very essential. Sarvagnya is knowledge in general, which a Jnani can get. After studying of the scriptures, the Jnani will also know what Ishvara knows, that the content of the world is Maya alone. But the details of how to create a mountain or a river or a planet, that does Jnani cannot know. Individual Jnani cannot know, only Ishvara can know. Okay. Any question on that? All right. So we'll go ahead. Then the next is Yasya. So we have just done the first quarter. Okay. That is Yaha Sarvagnya Sarvavit. The next quarter is Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha. No, Mayam. What does Mayam mean? Maya.
Endowed with, full of.
Maya, yes, okay. But so it's necessary to distinguish between Maya and Maya. Okay. A lot of people confuse that. Maya basically means product of. Mayam is a product of. And that is why you have Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha. The Kosha is a product of Annam, right? Okay. Now, so Jnana Mayam means a product of, right? And Yasya Tapaha Jnana Mayam. His tapas was in the form of Jnanam, was a product of Jnanam. So here Jnanamayam just means the visualization, the Sankalpaha. So Jnanamayam Tapaha, his austerity, his tapaha was in the nature of what? In the nature of visualization of the would-be creation. Just as, a painter will have a mental image of his painting before he creates. Or a speaker will mentally visualize the entire speech, the main ideas, how he will expand. All these ideas will be in his mind before he delivers a speech. So that is the visualization, the Sankalpaha. And then similarly, the Ishvara, he visualizes the entire creation before he delivers, before he creates. And that is the nature of tapas. His tapas is simply in the nature of visualization. And Shankara says this is vritti jnanam alone, in the form of thoughts alone, right? The thoughts which are what? In connected with all the things that he is going to create. And we should know that Maya is the mind of Ishvara, which has got the Sankalpa Shakti. And because of the fact that he is Sarvavit, operating through the knowledge of all possible minds, he can visualize the world. And this visualization was called tapas earlier also. Tapasa chiyate, right? It was said. That tapas was in the form of Jnanamayam. It is in the form of Jnanam alone. You can have any number of examples. Just as this goldsmith visualizes the form of the necklace before he makes it. What is the visualization in? In the form of thoughts, in the form of Jnanam alone. And in this tapas, there is no additional effort involved. So this is what is the critical point over here. When the jiva, he wants to create, let us say, a mobile phone, then the first step in his tapas is the visualization of the various parts, how they come together. And the second step is to take the effort of putting the parts together. So here, Shankara very clearly specifies there is no ayasa at all, no effort is involved at all. It is purely the visualization alone, the sankalpa alone, which will make the world be created. So tapasa, that is tapasa chiyate Brahma. From that Brahman, because of his tapas, because of his visualization alone, the entire world is created. And therefore he says, Tasmat etad Brahma nama rupa annam cha jayate. Tasmat. Tasmat means from that, which is from what? From that Ishvara, which was described earlier. This is Brahman. First description was a Brahman, right? From that Brahman, which was described earlier, and that Brahman, which is Maya Sahita. Maya is always part of Brahman, and that part, when you're talking about the Brahman before creation, we cannot talk of Ishvara because it is Brahman. He has got Maya. Ishvara is when Brahman uses that Maya, and therefore from that Brahman which had Avyakta Maya, Brahma was born. So this Brahma is Hiranyagarbha was born. The principle called Hiranyagarbha, whom we call Brahma Ji, he was born. And Etat Sarvagnya Brahma, from that all-knowing Brahman, which is now we are calling it Saguna Brahman, Hiranyagarbha, from that Brahman, remember that in this sequence, the Karanam Brahma is Ishvara, right? And Hiranyagarbha is a Karyam Brahma for the purpose of the sequence, and Hiranyagarbha becomes Karanam Brahma for the rest of creation. Because from that Hiranyagarbha, from that Lord Brahmaji, what is born? Nama, names are born, Rupam, colors are born, forms are born. So Shankara gives the example of Shuklam, Neelam, Ityadi, etc. for Rupam, which means colors like white and blue are born. Then Annam. Annam is grains. So Shankara gives the example of Rihi, rice. Yava, which is barley. So Vrihi, Yava, Adi Lakshanam. Grains like rice and barley. So in short, food grains are born. So Annam here means food, right? So because of the context only, food for living beings and not just for humans. So this food is for all living beings because there are other living beings also born. So food for all living beings also are born out of this Hiranyagarbha only. Right? So what is eaten is called Annam. Remember that there was a different meaning in the previous sloka for Annam. What was it? In the previous mantra, had a different meaning for Annam. Tapasa jiyate Brahma, tatho Annam abhijayate. What was the meaning?
It was like the bulging seed which is ready for sprouting. That is the example that you're giving.
What did we call it?
Annam, Antaryami number 2 or Karana Avastha number 2?
We call it Karana Avastha, right? So you have to remember the previous mantra, otherwise the whole, will have no impact on you at all, the entire teaching. When you come to Upanishad class, you must remember all the previous mantras. It's not very big, at least in this particular Upanishad is not. So before you come, just briefly revise through your notes. Otherwise, it's meaningless. So in the previous sloka, Annam was translated as Karanavastha, but in this sloka, remember, Annam means food. And that is why the meaning, we always say the meanings are always contextual. And when you say contextual, you use various techniques like Mimamsa, grammar, etc. to arrive at the meanings. So in this case, Annam Jayate, the universe is born. And there are 4 stages, which you saw earlier. So, Etad Brahma. And here Brahman means Hiranyagarbha. So, the Samashti. And from this Samashti, what comes? Jnanam comes, Kriya Shakti comes, Ichha Shakti comes. And therefore, from that Samashti, with the Jnanam, the Kriya Shakti and the Ichha Shakti, the world evolves. Namarupa is born, individual products are born. And this we will be elaborating in the second chapter. The first chapter is a summary. It's a hereafter in the next, you will find that there is an expansion on what is Paravidya and what is Aparavidya. And with this, the first chapter is over. So, iti prathama mundake prathama khandaha samaptam, you have to add. Iti prathama mundake prathama khandaha samaptam. The first chapter, the first section is over. Now we are going into the first chapter only, but the second section, which is prathama mundake dvitiya khandaha. Okay. And we'll provide a brief introduction first. So far, we have completed the first section of the first chapter of Mundaka Upanishad. And to briefly refresh my memory at least, Mundaka has 3 chapters, and each, which is called Mundaka. Each chapter is called a Mundaka, and each chapter has 2 sections. Each section is called what?
Khanda.
Khanda. And therefore, this is Prathama Mundake Dvitiya Khandaha. We have finished Prathama Mundake, Prathama Khanda is over. First chapter, first section is over. This is Prathama Mundake Dvitiya Khanda, chapter number 1, the second section. So, in the first chapter, first section, we saw that the student and the teacher have been introduced. So, what is the name of the teacher?
Angirasa.
Angirasa. What is the name of the student?
Shaunaka.
Shaunaka. The teacher is Angirasa, Shaunaka is student. And the content was Aparavidya and Paravidya. So, Aparavidya is called Purva Veda, also called Karma Kanda. Paravidya is called Vedanta, also called Jnana Kanda. So, there was a briefly we touched upon Aparavidya and Paravidya. And hereafter, we are going to deal with both in detail. The second Khandaha, Prathama Mundake, second Khandaha, it deals with Aparavidya in 11 mantras. Right? The entire Aparavidya of the Karma Kanda is condensed into 11 mantras. And in the 12th and 13th mantras, the idea of how you can make a seamless transition from Aparavidya to Paravidya, the transfer of a sadhaka from Karma Kanda to Jnana Kanda is talked about. And therefore, the first 11 mantras of this section are essentially Aparavidya only. And so, how should I make intelligent use of Aparavidya is going to be talked about. So, of course, many of these things we already know, but just to repeat. So, Karma Kanda is the ritualistic portion dealing with the karma part of the Vedas. And remember that whenever you say karma, we are talking about Vaidika karma only. Vaidika karma has one primary objective, that is Chitta Shuddhi. You can use Vaidika karma for worldly benefits also, but as envisaged in the Shastram, you can start with worldly benefits, but after some time you have to grow out of that and come to Chitta Shuddhi. And as I was saying, this Karma Kanda talks about a number of rituals, varieties of rituals giving various types of benefits. And performance of these mantras, Karma Kanda part, normally involve 3 Vedas only. The Rig Veda provides the mantras, the Yajur Veda gives the method of performing the rituals, and Sama Veda is for the same Rig Veda mantras are put into tune, they put the singing in a musical manner, you can sing those mantras. The performance of the rituals, they give you 2 types of phalam. So, Drishta phalam and Adrishta phalam. So, Drishta phalam is that which can be experienced straight away here in this universe. So, Iha phalam is also called. Iha meaning here. Those consequences of rituals where the benefit is available straight away in this life, that is Drishta phalam. And where you don't know where the benefit is not available straight away, but it adds to your papam or to your punyam, not to your papam, adds to your punyam, that is called Adrishta phalam. And rituals need to be done properly according to the rules laid down in Karma Kanda. And if it is not done properly, if it is incorrectly done, even though there will be no negative karma, there will be no papam, but you cannot expect any beneficial result. And where results are expected, we should always know that the results of a finite karma are always finite. And the only lasting benefit from any finite karma is that doing that karma and understanding that these are finite, and ultimately, therefore, all the rituals should lead me to vairagyam, to dispassion. Not vairagyam for the karma, okay? Vairagyam for the karma phalam. You can get vairagyam for the karma by simply not doing it. It's too difficult to do. That's not what is meant. Vairagyam for the karma phalam. And that vairagyam for the karma phalam, that is maturity. Now, to come to talk about the rituals. So, again, we have done all this again and again. I'm just putting them together so that we have a small little idea of the summary. So, there are different types of rituals, and one group of rituals is meant for fulfillment of worldly desires. And it can be for the well-being of your family, for your personal well-being, for your health, for the well-being of your family members, for advancement in life, for more money, for getting a good job, for getting a good house, for generally being happy. So, sukha praptihi. It can be for those reasons. So, these are all called sakama karma. Karma done for benefit in this world. Sakama meaning with desires. Sakama karma is karma with desires. Again, I'll remind you, karma here means Vaidika karma only. The rituals which are specified in the Vedas, in the Purva Veda or in the Karma Kanda. So that is the first group where it is done Sakama. Then there is a second bunch of rituals about where you have problems. So varieties of karma to solve various problems in life. So there is a difference here and in the first group was meant for acquiring something, right? But here the second group is meant for removing obstacles. So you're removing any problems that you face in life. So they are for dukkha nivrittihi or papa nivrittihi, eliminating dukkham, eliminating papam. While the earlier one, the first group was for sukha praptihi, punya praptihi, acquisition of punyam to give you more comfort in life. That was the first group of karmas, sakama karma. And this is the second group of karmas which are not meant for sukha praptihi, they are meant for dukkha nivrittihi. That is eliminating dukkham, eliminating papam. And they have two names. One is prayaschitta karma and one is parihara karma. Parihara means providing a solution. Prayaschitam is penance. So either in the form of penance for some problem that you, for some wrongdoing that you have done and you want to make up for that because you want to avoid the papam. And pariharam is to provide a solution by eliminating some problem that you are facing. Right. So this is two types. Then the third group is called niyata karma or nitya karma, which we have seen in Bhagavad Gita, compulsory duties. So niyatam puru karmatvam. That was the Krishna's advice in chapter 3. And to recall all those nitya karmas, you have Panchamaha yajñas, Deva yajñas, Pitra yajñas, Brahma yajñas, Manusya yajñas, Bhuta yajñas. All these we saw. They are all called Vihita karma also sometimes. So nitya karma and Vihita karma is the same. Okay. What are the objectives of this nitya karma or niyata karma? Number one is they contribute to general welfare of the family. Even though they are mandated, they do contribute to general welfare of a family because nitya karma also produces punyam. Because they are mandated karma doesn't mean that they have no punyam or papam, they have punyam. And therefore that punyam contributes to my general welfare as well as to the general welfare of my family. Secondly, unlike sakama karma, because these are mandated karma, The punyam is produced of two types. One is punyam which gives you general welfare, which contributes to the welfare of your family and yourself. Another is punyam which is spiritual in nature, so it contributes to spiritual growth. So kamya karma and parihara karma or prayaschitta karma do not have this aspect. They don't contribute to your spiritual growth. But nitya karma contributes to sadhana chatushtayam. It contributes to my spiritual growth. Thirdly, even if I am performing kamya karma and parihara karma for sukha praptihi and dukkha nivrittihi, for my achieving my material welfare, as well as for removing some obstacles, I can and I should still practice nitya karma also, because Shastra says that when you do nitya karma regularly, remember nitya means not eternal over here. Nitya means daily, mandatory. So nitya karma has, as prescribed by the Shastra, means mandatory karma, daily karma. And that daily karma, because of its performance, Shastra says, even if you are doing kamya karma or parihara karma or prayaschitta karma, the performance of this nitya karma on a daily basis will enhance the effect of the kamya karma and parihara karma. In short, those two karmas, kamya karma and parihara karma, will become more efficient, will become more fruitful, will do what is required by you in a more efficient way. So that is the third benefit. And fourthly, when nitya karma is done regularly, it creates a mindset. It creates the mindset of dispassion. And therefore, Krishna says, samatvam yoga uchyate. Your mind begins to become less disturbed when there are problems. So FIR becomes lower and lower. Samatvam yoga uchyate. And because of this, you learn from every experience in your life. Whatever pleasures and pains you go through in every experience, so you will learn. You have various experiences in life. Marriage is there, children are there, job experiences there, worldly experiences there. They can be both good and bad. And you can extract the learning from that experience only if your mind is balanced. Otherwise, when going through a bad experience, you will be so focused on the discomfort that you're having that you would miss the teaching completely. You'll miss the extraction of what should I learn from the experience. Similarly, in good experience, if your mind is focused on the joy only, that means it's not balanced, then you will extract the joy all right, but you will forget to learn from the experience. And therefore, learning from any experience in life, whether it be bad experience or good experience, learning can happen only when the mind is in a learning mode. And the mind in a learning mode is a mind which has got samatvam, which is not disturbed unduly by the fluctuations of your life. And only such a mind can understand the importance of leading a spiritual life. And that importance of leading a spiritual life can be understood only when I understand the limitation of material accomplishments. And therefore, all these three types of karma, kamya karma, parihara karma, and nitya karma, they are the topics of karma kanda. Karma kanda is therefore being summarized in this section. And here, before beginning this section, Shankaracharya, also called Bhashyakara. Bhashyakara means the commentator, the one who has given the Bhashya. So, Bhashyakara gives a brief introduction, a very potent introduction, a very nice introduction. So, he says this, why is this section necessary? Because the further details of Aparavidya have to be discussed, right? And Aparavidya consists of what? So, Aparavidya, he says, consists of Karta, Adhi, Sadhana, Kriya, and Phalam. Which means Aparavidya has, when you look at it in totality, the instruments, what constitutes Aparavidya? One is the Karta, the doer. One is the Sadhana, the instrument of doing whatever you are doing. One is the Kriya, the very action itself. and one is the phalam, which is the consequences of the action. And where do you find this? All this are found in Karma Kanda only. And remember, Karma Kanda has rituals of three types again, another three types. Kayika karma, that is for your body. Manasika karma, that is for the mind, and verbal also. So Karma Kanda deals with Kayika, Vachika, and Manasika karma, and the three phalams. And therefore, the prime, the essence, the prime component of Aparavidya is Kriya. And to do Kriya, you have to have what is known as Karakas. Karaka is the group of components needed to perform an action. And when all the Karakas come together, then you get a Kriya. When all the Karakas, the components required to function or to have an action, when all the Karakas get together and function, then you get what is known as a Kriya. What are the Karakas? They are the components of any action. And very beautifully in Sanskrit grammar, there are 7 vibhaktis. And I don't know if you remember, but when you learnt Hindi itself, you would have learnt one little line. Kartane, karmako, karan se. Do you remember? Anybody who learned Hindi?
Yes.
Yes.
कर्ता कर्म को करण से करण के द्वारा
Karan ke
अपा
संप्रदान
के
को अपादानम से संबंध का adhikaran में, all those things. So let's briefly look at what this. So this 7 vibhaktis basically are talking about the components of any action, which is called karakas in Sanskrit. The first one is karta. Now karta is, I'm not going into the vibhakti part, okay, prathama, dvitiya, etc., because karta means prathama vibhakti, karma means dvitiya vibhakti. That kind of grammar I'm not getting into because I'm not very sure how many of you remember that. Remember that karta is the one who is doing the action. And therefore in Hindi we add the word ne, by. So karta ne. And karma here denotes the object of the action. Karana is the agent or the instrument. That's why you say karta ne, karma ko, karana se. So if you're thinking about, cutting of an apple, then karta ne, karma is apple over here, karma ko, karan se, karan is a knife. So he cut the apple using the knife. Karta ne, karma ko, karan se. And there is sampradhanam indicates the direction in which the action is moving. So that sampradhana here indicates the verb, and therefore cutting will come. Cutting is the verb, which is sampradhanam. So in English, it's called the dative case. So in English, karta is called the nominative case. Karma is called the accusative case. Karana is the instrumental case. Sampradhana, the verb, is the dative case. And that is why you say sampradhana ko or sampradhana ke liye. And the apadanam is a word which indicates the source or the separation or the motive. So in English, it is called the ablative case, in Sanskrit panchami. So you can take it as from or out of. So if you are cutting the apple and the seed is coming out of it, from the apple the seed came out, that way. Then Sashti is the sambandha. The 6th is sambandha, which denotes belonging to or possession. And then comes adhikaranam. Adhikaranam is basically the substratum, the situation of the thing. Where did he cut the apple? That is adhikaranam. So me or pe or para. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that the use of all the karakas is for what purpose? To do the karma. All karakas, when they come together, when the karta, he takes the knife, he takes the apple, he starts cutting. All those 7 karakas, when they are used, then what happens? The karma is done. When the karma is done, what happens? Karma phalam comes out. And Shankara says, when these karakas function together, the karma phalam is what? Karma phalam is samsara only. Because samsara is the result of karma phalam. And what is the nature of the samsara? It is anadi anantaha. Anantaha means this samsara is anadi, right? It has no beginning. And anantaha here means that time cannot cause an end to the samsara. So it is beginningless and endless. So he is giving the nature of the samsara. Remember, you connected all to the karakas. Wherever the karakas come together, what happens? Karma happens. And the general result of karma is what? Perpetuation of whatever you are doing, which is called samsara. And this is called samsara because of the nature of the karma phalam. And what is the nature of samsara? Anadi anantaha, beginningless and endless, and dukkha swarupa, full of dukkham. And Shankara says very beautifully, avyacheda rupa sambandha. It is a bondage which is avyacheda rupa. It has no gaps. It is continuous, right? And sambandha means samyak bandha, very strong bondage. So this samsara is full of dukkham, full of sorrow, and it's an extremely strong bondage which has no gaps in it. You will not find that samsara has any gaps. It is continuously full of dukkham. And he gives the example like the stream of a river. There are no gaps in the flow of the water. Right? And therefore, knowing this nature of samsara, what should you do with samsara? It should be removed. So his idea is, having understood that samsara is the cause, is the nature of, in this nature of dukkham, is a very strong bondage, and it is the definite result of any sort of action, any sort of karma. What you should do is give up that samsara completely in full measure. Right? You cannot, he says full measure because some people think that going to heaven, etc., is relief from samsara. It is, but it is temporary only because you come back. And therefore, you must ensure that you get permanent relief from samsara. And here again he says, pratyekam. Each person by himself has to get this relief. Means there cannot be a proxy. Only you have to work for your moksha. You can't appoint an agent for getting moksha, unfortunately. And therefore, for your moksha, pratyekam. Only you have to work towards that moksha. So that much is Shankara's commentary on aparavidya. Right? And now Shankara comes to paravidya and says, tad upashama lakshana mokshaha. So upashama means going away. Tat here has to be connected to the previous word samsara. So samsara upashama lakshanam is moksha. The going away of samsara, that is what is called moksha. The going away of duality, which is paravidya, that is called paravidya, that is called moksha. And this is paravidya vishaya. This is the subject of paravidya. What? The going away of samsara is the subject of paravidya. And what sort of paravidya is that? Anadi anantaha. No beginning and no end also. Absolute anantaha. What sort of, when you talk about this paravidya, that is talking about what? Brahman or Atma. What is the nature of that Atma? He says, Ajaro, Amaro, Amrito, Abhayaha. It's a quote from an Upanishad. Ajara means which has, Jara is old age. Ajara means no old age. So this Brahman, this Atma has no old age, which has to be taken in order to connect each of these to the Shadvikara. So when you say Ajara, it has no old age, you have to connect to Shadvikara. Then you say Amara, Amara is without death, and therefore you have to connect it to Viparinama of the Shadvikara. Then Amritaha, you have to connect it to Nasha, destruction of Shadvikara. And Abhaya, of course, is not part of that. Abhaya means that there is no fear also, because you are not born, you will not die, you will not have any sort of decay also, and therefore there is no fear at all. So the Upanishad says, Ditiyad Bhayam Bhavati. Wherever there is a second, there will be fear. And since the knowledge of Atma makes you understand that there is no second, that only you are there, therefore the the chances of any fear coming is zero, because there is nothing to be afraid of. And this Paravidya, this Atma is Shuddhaha, pure, and Prasannaha, therefore happy. And Shankara says, what is the form of Paravidya? He says, Swa Atma Pratishtham. This Paravidya consists of, having understood the Paravidya, this moksha consists of what? Svatma Pratishtha Lakshanam. In the form of remaining in one's own nature constantly. So remember, moksha is no mysterious, it's a very beautiful explanation or a definition of moksha. Moksha is simply remaining in your own nature. So remember that you are constantly aware of your real nature. What is your real nature? Aham Brahmasmi. It's not repeating Aham Brahmasmi all the time. It is being aware that I am Brahman all the time. Just like today, my instinctive awareness is that I am this body. That knowledge is eliminated and replaced by the knowledge that I am Brahmasmi. So I am Brahman becomes my subconscious knowledge. That constant repetition is not necessary anymore. I am not going, like today I don't say I'm a human being, I'm a human being, I'm a human being. I don't say that, right? But I'm aware that I'm a human being all the time, subconsciously itself. So that sort of subconscious understanding that I am Brahman has to come. So that is Svatma Pratishtha Lakshanam. That is remaining in one's own nature. Being constantly aware that I am Brahman, especially when there are problems in front of me. And therefore, of course, you should first know that you are Brahman, and that knowledge comes through Shravanam and Mananam, and through Nididhyasanam, that knowledge is internalized, and therefore, he says moksha is the constant awareness that you are Brahman. And this is also Ananda. This is not experienced Ananda. This Ananda does not come from outside you. This Ananda is essentially your own nature. And Shankara ends by saying that for presenting the subject matter of this kind of Aparavidya, this second section is begun. And what is the advantage? By the understanding of Aparavidya, dispassion is generated. Sadhana Chatushtayam comes. So Vairagyam, that is dispassion for the worldly things, come only when you understand the limitations, the disadvantages of those worldly things. So, briefly, we can classify all worldly things as obligations, responsibilities, possessions, and transactions. So, obligations, responsibilities, possessions, and transactions. These all are part of the world, part of duality. Only when you understand the limitation, the disadvantages of each of these, then only Vairagyam will come. So this is briefly and Krishna says as well, Dosha Darshanam. Vairagyam comes from understanding the problems. And therefore, what should you do in the first thing? So this is the reason. Why is Apara Prakriti being presented? Because before you understand the doshas, for Dosha Darshanam, what is required? Dvaita Vichara is required. Examination of Dvaitam, examination of duality is required. So Dvaita Pariksha, examination of Dvaita is required. And in the same Upanishad, you will find later, Pariksha Lokan Karma Chitan. One should examine the karma phalam of every action that you do. Even your own body has got dosha. What are doshas? Janma, Jara, etc. So Apara is the preparatory discipline. And therefore Shankara says, first it has to be talked about. Because without that, how will you develop Vairagyam? And if you don't develop Vairagyam, how will you ever come to Jnanam? And that is one reason. And there is also another reason. One should know that Aparavidya cannot give moksha. Therefore, we should know that it cannot give moksha. And if it cannot give moksha, what is the corollary? First, it has to be given up. So first you have to examine it, understand the limitations, including the fact that Aparavidya cannot give moksha, and therefore Aparavidya has to be given up later. For that, you have to talk about it first. So Aparavidya Dosha Darshanam is required for Aparavidya Vairagyam. And therefore, Shankara says that without introducing Aparavidya, the examination is not possible, the analysis is not possible, and therefore, the Shruti talks about Aparavidya in this section. So with this, we'll stop for today. This is only the introduction to the second section. We'll discuss in detail in the next class. Any questions? Okay. So with this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate.
Purnamevavashyate.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shantihi.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah
Om Tat
Shivaya.
Sat.
Thank you for your
Om Namah
patience.
Shivaya, Acharya ji.